football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and I'm joined, as always, by Dave Oster.
Hey, guys.
And Mark Weber.
How's it going?
And today we've got pretty much an all-draft podcast with Todd McShay coming out with his 4.0 mock draft. And the biggest thing, we're talking quarterbacks every time we bring up a mock draft. And with McShay, not only does he say that the top three quarterbacks aren't going to be drafted until starting at the 4th overall, he's going a little bit different than Mel Kiper. McShay saying Blake Bortles, first one off the board.
Yeah, it's a bold move. And you know what I'm thinking? He's just kind of going for Blake Bortles has all the tools and is a really high upside because, let's be honest, we haven't seen a lot of him in the spotlight. He really came on strong late in the season, showed us all what he could do in that spotlight bowl game. And then it was like, okay, we want more. I just want to see more of him playing. It's almost like, not like a craving, but it's like, we don't know yet. He's still uncertain, but in a good way. Johnny Manziel has that uncertainty in a bad way. Like, there could be something
What are you getting
screw
off
loose
the field with Manziel?
Yeah.
That's the, I'm not
Bortles
quite sure.
has like that upside, like, man, we could get the next, who knows?
You also could get the next Blaine Gabbert,
Oh,
which is the comparison
you had
that's
to go
kind of been
there.
going around lately. There's that fear that he is going to just be that kind of mediocre to not very good.
Size, strength, and just missing something.
And I think an interesting thing with the McShay 4.0 is what everyone's kind of accepting is going to happen. You'll have Garoppolo going at the top of the second. Also, he's including Savage out of Pitt going to the Houston Texans, 33. So I think you have those where it kind of speaks to the top guys not being all that great. It's those middle guys that they might not be the best, but they're the better value.
Yeah, at this point, it's almost like, okay, you may be the number one rated quarterback, but we're not willing to spend a first overall on you. So we'd be okay with taking somebody, maybe putting him under our wing for a year, see what we can do. Maybe see who comes out in the next couple of years. Maybe they got their eye out down the line. But yeah, these second and third round quarterback rated players are now seeming to get a little more in touch with teams, more workouts, and we're seeing a lot more contact with players. I think that it's actually going to be like a defensive, like they're going to completely avoid quarterbacks. I see, instead we were talking 3 quarterbacks in the top 5. Now I think we'll see 3 quarterbacks in the top 25.
I would say 3 in the entire first round, probably. Besides those top 3 guys, there's no one else that should go. You might have someone like Carr slip in.
I was going to say, does Derek Carr slip in 25 through
But the thing is,
the end of the first round?
do any of those teams have any room for a quarterback?
No, but it's the fact, will someone trade up to try to steal it? And
Which
there's
is
always
possible.
that, yeah.
But, I mean, if you're trading up at the same time, Garoppolo's going to be there. Savage, I mean, Savage is the guy you don't really hear anything about.
Yeah, he's
really.
kind of like off the charts still.
Yeah, but I mean, there's
Flying under the radar.
Yeah, so maybe that is a guy that somebody can go for later. I just think you really don't have a reason to trade back up into the first round. There's so many good talents that are going to be available. You mentioned the defensive side of the ball, and I agree with that definitely. And especially as a Bears fan, that a lot of that we're going to see go before our pick, unfortunately. Exactly. But, I mean, I do like seeing Jadeveon Clowney going number 1 overall. It's kind of a consensus now that, yes, that will happen. And then we're going to go, obviously, Greg Robinson has kind of also been the consensus.
See, and that's the one pick, the Rams pick, that between the last mock draft that we've seen from Kiper and now this one from Todd McShay, McShay saying what we've been assuming from the beginning. Rams going to go get offensive tackle help. They're going to go at Robinson. But in the last mock draft we saw from Kiper, he came out and said Sammy Watkins, 2nd overall.
See, that one I want to believe in because one on you're like, okay, we got to protect our quarterback, keep him upright, healthy for a season. The other is let's give him another option, see what he can do with a real threat. I think that they're going to build up and go for if they keep this pick, which is a big if at this point because there's a lot of talk about teams trading up trying to steal Khalil Mack from the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3. Always could be an option. Atlanta Falcons looking at you. But the whole thing is, are you going to build around Sam Bradford? Or are you going to build around, let's just get the best guy available?
I
Either
will
one
I
is
will
kinda
say
building
this,
around
though. Could you imagine the Rams with Tavon Austin on one side, Sammy Watkins on the other.
It doesn't matter if your quarterback's on his ass all game or on the bench because he's injured. Offensive lineman, you can plug in, and you've got somebody there for a decade.
But you go, do we think that we need to keep our quarterback on his feet? Or do we think it's more valuable to give him someone to throw to, and we can work with that offensive line?
And another thing is they can try to, I mean, it's not the best fix for a poor offensive line, but they've got a good running back. Use the run game to help keep Bradford off his feet.
Maybe good is the wrong term. I think okay.
It's a minor fix.
Okay, running
CJ2K,
back.
still out there.
Yeah, no teams have contacted him. He let everybody know that.
He wanted everyone to know that nobody is interested.
Which is a total shocker to me. I think he's still got something left in the tank. But, this Rams team needs to make a decision going forward as a franchise. And I think the safe play would be to go out and get that offensive lineman. And if they're being bold, somebody is going to trade up for Khalil Mack. I just have a feeling that if any pick gets traded for, theirs is the most vulnerable, and I think they'd be open to it.
I was going to say, we're sitting just under a month away from the draft. Odds are this pick gets taken. What percentage are you putting right now?
Probably 25%. I think it's that high already, and I'm...
Not higher than 25?
No, because we haven't seen a consensus team heavily involved. I think Khalil Mack would be the goal, like the target. I think because of the talent drop-off from the defensive side, it is really just Khalil Mack going number 2, and then after that, there's a gap. So if you want that standout defensive player, you've got two choices. One's going number 1. You could have the next at number 2.
And I mean, one of the other things that probably people aren't thinking about yet, if the Rams go, okay, let's trade the pick, and someone takes Robinson. Well, who cares? Let's say they trade with Atlanta, a team that you said could come up and steal Mack. Oh, we didn't get Robinson because someone else took him? Let's take Jake Matthews, offensive tackle out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, and they'd be totally okay with it. There's just so many options right now. This draft is very, very good as far as talent goes. I think the only weakness in what we're seeing is there's no standout quarterback. There's just no top tier, like, nope, this guy's a can't-miss prospect. He's going to be the next John Elway.
We've been kind of a little too lucky lately with guys like Robert Griffin III. Yeah, even though he's having some injury issues. And Andrew Luck, things like that. We've been very spoiled.
I would even throw Cam Newton into that.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've even been so spoiled to have guys like Russell Wilson and Colin Kaepernick come out
of
from
later rounds. Yeah.
So this is a normal thing. This is like what you would kind of usually have. Not really that many great quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. You really have to rely on your scouts. And make sure you're watching that game tape.
So you don't get stuck with a Jake Locker or Christian Ponder.
Well, and I mean, bringing up the quarterbacks, I feel like the biggest thing, and this is the only similarity with the quarterbacks that Kuiper and McShay have, Cleveland, Tennessee, Minnesota are the ones taking the top 3 quarterbacks. The only difference, one says Manziel goes to the Vikings, the other says he goes to the Browns, and with Bortles, vice versa.
And you know what? Those 3 teams that you named, they've all drafted quarterbacks in the last 5 years in the first round. So, I mean, it's bad teams not learning their lesson. Is that where we're at in the NFL, or just getting unlucky?
You do have it's an obvious pattern of the same teams draft quarterback. If you draft quarterbacks early, you continue to draft quarterbacks early. Part of it's just that they don't have the time to really develop. You don't have time to become Aaron Rodgers. Obviously there's more to it than that, but you just are thrown into the fire. You get a few years, it doesn't work out, and you're out. Colt McCoy, how long did he have? A year. That's it. And Colt McCoy now sitting on the bench. Obviously, there's so many more examples of that. But you have a guy like Blake Bortles probably going to be in a similar situation. However, if he does go to the Cleveland Browns, it's a little bit better of a spot than, say, the Tennessee Titans, which what do they have?
Exactly.
So I think these teams, I'll just say out of the teams that are, taking a quarterback, the ones I do expect, the Tennessee Titans, I do expect them to have to draft another quarterback. And if we follow this with Teddy Bridgewater, everybody's kind of falling down on Teddy Bridgewater because nothing he's done lately has looked good.
Do you think, let's stick with the same teams, Browns, Titans, Vikings. Do you see any of these 3 teams going like, you know what, I'm not fully sold on any of these quarterbacks, let's wait till the second round, second or later.
I could see the Vikings maybe doing it, but that's just because their head coach has come out and made some pretty strong comments against quarterbacks.
Well, not just that. You got to think of new head coach, new team, and I just think of, okay, it's your first year somewhere. Don't make too many changes. He's got to get a feel for Ponder and Castle.
If he ties himself to a first-round quarterback, that's like just tying yourself to a rock and throwing off a bridge at that point.
Well, unless you tie yourself to Andrew Luck, but we don't have that
exactly.
this year.
There's no guaranteed guy like that. So after watching what happened last year in Cleveland, being like, okay, wow, if we're really just going to call it after one season, just that I'd be horrified as a head coach to come into an organization and just be like, well, whoever the first-round pick quarterback is, that's the guy who's deciding the rest of my career.
Now, I don't think that the Vikings are going to pass on a quarterback. And one of the reasons why I think that is because I think the Browns might pass on a quarterback.
Really?
Because for the Cleveland Browns, they've got some pretty good stuff established.
Will we see a Cleveland Brown first round where both of their picks are in 0 quarterbacks?
The Cleveland Browns pick so many quarterbacks lately. I mean, first round, they are known for taking quarterbacks and having it not work out.
They do have Hoyer coming back.
Exactly. Hoyer's coming back from injury. He showed a lot of promise.
He really did
before
get that offense going.
So you have to kind of give him a chance, I think, especially with so many changes either about to happen or having had happened in Cleveland. You want to just kind of solidify and prove, look, our defense is doing good. Our offense is set up for success. We need one thing, and that's that quarterback. I will find him. Unfortunately, we have someone that we can see. If it doesn't work out, I will find him next year.
And a running back wouldn't hurt at this point for them.
Of course.
But no, you're absolutely right. Cleveland is a team who's used multiple picks. So I'm looking at them and being like, are they going to go out and maybe bounce that second pick, get a quarterback, go after that Derek Carr who's maybe available at the end of the first? Or are they going to swoop in and try to grab like Garoppolo early? I think, I don't know, it's a lot of pressure to put on a young quarterback then to come in and compete for that job with Hoyer, who, like you said, is seeming to be the leader in Cleveland.
See, and the one thing, just to kind of bring up what you said, Dave, about the Vikings, where Zimmer's come out and said with Manziel that, you know what, I kind of don't like the off-the-field stuff. I don't like the head on his shoulders. And part of me, would I love to see Johnny Manziel wear my Minnesota Viking jersey? Yes, I would love it. But there's a part of me that thinks if you're especially a first-year head coach and you have a gut feeling about something, stick to your gut.
But, I mean, he does have Norv Turner there as the offensive coordinator, so...
Stick to your gut, though.
You've got somebody who's very good developing quarterbacks.
I know what you're saying, but in this situation, I kind of feel like I want to say stick to your gut. If you don't feel good, don't pull the trigger. Because why, like you said, why tie yourself to Manziel if you already right now don't have a good feeling about it?
I know we all remember last year's draft, so we're going to play a little bit of a game. All right. I think we're all pretty set that 3 quarterbacks, that's the max that are going to go.
Yes.
Okay. What are the odds that you think, percentage-wise, we only get 2 quarterbacks?
Ooh. And then in the first round, only 2 going?
In the first round, only 2 quarterbacks.
45%.
No, I'm going way low. I'm going like 10%. I just can't
45.
see... I can't see Bridgewater dropping that far.
I can.
Really?
Yes.
I think
see,
he had a horrible pro day.
I'm not saying that it's because of the pro day.
Really? Okay.
I feel like the Browns and the Vikings are going to take quarterbacks. The Titans, I feel like, are going to sit there. And we're going to see the time tick all the way to the end. And at the end of the time, when they're like, okay, pick is in, they're going to say, you know what? Screw it. We don't need to go with a guy like Bridgewater. Let's go with a different need. And then every team after the Titans, well, we don't need a quarterback. We don't need a quarterback. And he drops Geno Smith 2.0.
I think it's tough, though, for the Titans because Jake Locker is the only quarterback on the roster, really, that can start games. And there's so many question marks with him, with injuries and just ability to play the game. So it's tough for them to pass on a quarterback. I have a hard time not seeing 3 quarterbacks go, only because The Browns have 2 picks.
Exactly. And you know what I'm thinking? The other team? I think Arizona could take a step out here and be like, look, we need to go for our future. Carson Palmer's not getting any younger, not getting any healthier. Yeah, did he put up numbers last year? Yeah. But if we had, a real star in that position, would this team be just absolutely massacring it in the playoffs right now? Absolutely. That
Not
defense is
saying
loaded.
that this would happen, but imagine if Johnny Manziel dropped, and then they could get that.
I think Bridgewater is the
combination of
guy.
attitude.
Well,
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, not even
That would
that.
be
I mean,
Fantastic.
I can see Bridgewater going
Well-
all the way down.
well, kind of to bring up, we just saw him not too long ago on Gruden's quarterback camp. Kuiper, he said he thinks later rounds Arizona's going to go with big A.J. McCarron.
And that, I guess it seems like a safe pick to me. And that's weird because the guy coming off an injury is a safe pick. But I feel like A.J. McCarron has the most to prove because everybody's got the knock against him. You played on a loaded team, loaded offense, loaded defense. You didn't earn anything.
Great college head coach.
I mean,
Hall of Famer.
literally, there's absolutely nothing that wasn't there for him for the takings. So he just had to basically stand in. But no, I think he definitely is a good quarterback. I think he's probably that mid-second to third round grade. But I don't know. Maybe he's the guy like Aaron Rodgers who can sit back for 3 years watching Palmer and develop into something special.
I see A.J. McCarron as a better version of Kirk Cousins.
That's hard to say because
He's
Cousins
better than
is so
Kirk
young.
Cousins, but he's going to be in the same role as Cousins is. Maybe like a team like Cleveland. What if they take one of the top 3 quarterbacks? Oh, let's take an A.J. McCarron too.
I think Cleveland needs to avoid taking more than one
Well,
quarterback,
I say-
especially.
They've
kinda
already
just-
got enough quarterbacks.
I kind of
back
just
there,
threw
so.
Cleveland out there,
A lot
but
of
we
Michigan
could see that
quarterbacks.
with an
I
abundance
think,
of
I
teams.
mean,
Like,
the only team that I think could take multiple quarterbacks is Tennessee, because
what about
they
Tampa?
have nothing.
Tampa is an interesting
Mike
case.
Glennon, though.
Yeah,
is
Mike.
that
Mike-
is that really Lovey's guy?
No,
They
because
did
he
get
paid
McCown, too.
McCown starter money.
Yeah,
You paid a backup starter money. You have Glennon there who has maybe potential. You can't really go and get multiple guys. Plus, Lovey Smith doesn't draft quarterbacks.
exactly. And especially if they have anything close to a personality issue. If they don't come out sparkling, not his kind of
Well,
guy.
Manziel's not his guy then.
Absolutely not.
You wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
No, the Titans is the one that's kind of. I'm like, I want to believe in Jake Locker. He made some plays with his legs last year. He looked like he was starting to get a grasp on things, but he just couldn't stay healthy. And there's always that knock to him, like, you know what? Maybe he's just not all that. So this Titans team, though, as a whole, like we were talking about, they're just in shambles right now. They've, like, every piece of that offense, if you look back from, like, 3 years ago, just been dismantled. So they've got a lot of rebuilding to do. Either way, I think they need to either go quarterback in the first round or quarterback in the second or third round. He's not quite Sam Bradford hatred level for me, but Locker's fallen.
Well, and I mean, I'm going further and further down this draft. And the one thing with McShay that we have not seen in a top 10 yet, but we are now, Clinton Dix, top 10 pick, Lions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense in a scary way, unfortunately. As a Bears fan, this
Well, 'cause
Lions team needs...
He was projected to go Rams or you. Who's going to get him?
Right, and I would have absolutely loved to see him on our side of the ball. But the Lions always known for their terrible secondary. And, I mean, they've got...
Swiss cheese like secondary.
That has been phrased. They have a fantastic front four. Their linebacking core is improved, but that secondary is still just in desperate need, especially going up against the NFC North. I mean, you got the Bears, you got Green Bay Packers, maybe a little bit to worry about the
And
Vikings
the
if they
offense
can
isn't
maybe
terrible.
do something. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, what do you go out? Get like Calvin Johnson? Like, they're a very good team that I think just needs to mature. Head coach being the main position. But, no, I mean, this definitely A-plus pick for the Lions, just on paper. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it would be a shame to have to, as Bears fans, have to go against Clinton Dix twice a year. That really sucks. And this is a guy who you would want to go against: Jay Cutler, Aaron Rodgers, potential rookie quarterback in Minnesota. But I don't really know. I'm not 100% convinced on him going top 10 still, even though I would love to have him at 14.
It still seems like a reach for him at 10. I mean, that's my only concern, is taking a safety in the top 10. And he's a riser, but still, I just don't see the value. And I think, honestly...
Who do you see being that, let's say you don't see Clinton Dix as that top 10. Who do you see maybe being the top 10 instead?
Talent-wise or fit-wise with the Lions?
Either or. Go whichever way you feel, man.
I mean, there's a lot of guys who maybe deserve to be there. One of the fastest climbers lately is Taylor Lumen. I'm not a huge fan of him.
The biggest thing around him, though, is those assault charges.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, coming out of Michigan and having the type of career that he had in the big house and then having assault charges is huge. And, I mean, he's projected by McShay to go to the Giants, which wouldn't be a bad fit. The Giants do need to protect Eli Manning.
I will say one thing about having some kind of off-the-field issues. The Detroit Lions have so many kind of potential. I'll put potential, which is being a little safe there. Personality problems,
and they have arguably the dirtiest player in the NFL.
Yeah,
not arguably, he just openly.
I'm saying with a new head coach coming in, really, is it so bad to add one more? I mean, you already have to fix so many different kind of personality problems, anyways.
To be honest, the only teams that have new head coaches that I kind of don't consider it that big of a deal are the Lions and the Titans, because Wisenhunt and Caldwell have done it before.
Right.
They're not brand new to the head coaching game.
Definitely, but I'm saying Caldwell obviously has to come in and fix some issues. Adding one more player?
I would take a guy like Caldwell to say, let's draft a guy like Lewin because I can deal with that. I relate head coaching to kind of like teaching. A first-year teacher's not going to take on a lot. First-year head coach isn't going to be like, let me take on this project. Whereas a coach that's done it before.
Belichick's he's got problems? Give them to me.
Yep.
I'll shut him up.
Exactly.
But I think with Caldwell, he's already proven what he can do to where it's not a big deal if he just adds one more thing he has to take care of to this team. I mean, he's going to have to whip these boys into shape anyway.
Seriously, they're an unstructured team, and I think he was a very good fit as a head coach.
Well, I mean, come on. When you have a child running your team and Jimmy Schwartz.
God, yeah.
Yeah, that's an issue.
The angry child because, I didn't beat the Niners.
Well, yeah, I think I still love the, by the way, one reason why we'll miss him in a head coaching position is for potential blows to be thrown. You don't get that. You just don't get that
There was
in
no
the
coach
NFL.
in the NFL last year that I hated more than Jimmy Schwartz.
Yeah, and probably coach just ever. Even including college football, I can't think of anybody. Because, I mean, Nick Saban gets close for level of hatred.
Brian Kelly's up there for me.
Really?
I kind of don't like
You were
Brian
loving
Kelly.
Brian Kelly. You were drinking the Kool-Aid last year.
No, it was Chip Kelly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Chip Kelly.
Yeah,
My bad.
no, Brian Kelly, the guy at Notre Dame.
That's just because
who left Cincinnati for Notre Dame right before their bowl game.
Oh, big deal. It was a better opportunity, and he knew it.
It's true. It has to happen sometimes, unfortunately.
Yep.
I still remember the having a head coach leave right before the Orange Bowl. And then getting destroyed by Florida State.
Yeah.
So
you still got Saban's exit from the NFL. That was shady. I mean, it's not like anybody has like a perfect record behind them. But you can redeem yourself. A couple of years, couple of national championships, it's all good.
Hey, he never has to go back to the NFL again. He never has to try it again.
Talking about Nick Saban doesn't have to go back?
Just don't bother. Don't try it again.
Well, and I mean, getting back to the mock draft, we talked about the Lions. Another team, I'm going down, the Bears. We thought that the Bears had dodged the Aaron Donald bullet, but McShay's saying in this one, hey, Chicago fans, don't fret because here's Aaron Donald for
Well,
you.
I wouldn't say dodging a bullet.
He's not a bad player.
If you get Aaron Donald, he's solid.
I think
It's
that
just a
he
reach.
might have a little bust written on him.
No.
Wouldn't be surprised.
But, I mean, think about it. He's going to line up next to Lamar Houston and Jared Allen, though. Anybody lining up next to those two is going to be just fine.
But it's kind of hard to pass up a Dequez Denard, a cornerback.
Definitely.
You guys need safety / cornerback.
I will say the one thing about
aging corners.
The only one thing I'll say about cornerback is I would rather have someone in the first round that's going to make an immediate impact.
Denard can. Not even Denard.
He's not going to be a starter, though.
Wait, what about a guy like, and McShay has him dropping ridiculously far as we've seen him projected up in the top 10. Justin Gilbert, cornerback out of Oklahoma State.
But what I'm saying about
guys
cornerbacks
that can make an immediate impact.
They're not going to start over Peanut Tillman. You're not going to start
Could get
over
injured.
Tim Jennings.
Sure, they could get injured, but I would rather have a guy like Donald who I know is going to start every down. I mean, he could get injured too, but I know that he is projected to start.
Yeah.
Or a guy, I mean,
Then
Clinton Dix is
then
gone
if that's the
already,
case, why not take a guy like Jernigan?
Because he's a 3-4 defensive tackle. He's a nose tackle. And I will say, if you listen to the podcast, you know I'm all about the Bears moving to a 3-4, but we're not doing it yet. And I don't know if we're going to do it.
I don't think that.
If we go Donald, I mean, there's almost no point because we fixed a majority of people who. Oh, the only thing is maybe our linebackers would be more comfortable in a fourth. That's the only difference is if we swap schemes, maybe that gets better. But as far as our front four has been fixed basically in one offseason. Yeah. If we pick up Aaron Donald.
Now, of course, with Donald, he's not the player I really would love. I'd love Clinton Dix. I would love to have Mosley as well.
And Mosley, McShay saying, is going to go right before you to the Rams.
Which is very unfortunate, but not a surprise either. I do like having this pick because we have a lot of similar needs to the Green Bay Packers, and I just want to screw them over just a little bit.
Well, and I mean, McShay has the Packers going wide receiver in the first round. Beckham Jr., LSU guy.
It's tough.
The Packers weren't even at the LSU Pro Day. They didn't even get to see him at the Pro Day.
It's true, but hey, tape's what matters. But I mean,
True.
It's tough to think about the Packers needing more wide receivers, especially with Aaron Rodgers there.
Well, they did lose a few.
Yeah, and they don't really. I mean, he can make people into
That's
high quality.
You're just going on the Tom Brady system of our quarterback's so good he can make crap look good.
I mean, he had.
Let's just polish this turd up.
Like, who was he throwing to, and he still got into the playoffs?
I mean, even look at the second round McShay has. The Packers going a tight end.
That makes sense.
Wide receiver, tight end.
They need a tight end.
I mean, I think you do miss out on some defense, which obviously the Packers don't have that great of a defense. And when you're going up against, Stafford, Jay Cutler.
They held the Bears at the end of that game, which makes me want to just hit my head off a table pretty hard. But
but I mean, if Chris Conte didn't play.
Chris Conte. No.
There it is.
We almost made it half a show without
guys,
Chris Conte.
Chris Conte's hurt, so we don't have to worry about him. You know what? That's what the Bears need, though. They do need a safety. I mean, I say it all the time because of the fact that Chris Conte exists.
Well, what about
on the roster? But now he's hurt.
And okay, he's visiting with the Bears, but McShay has him slotted 20 to the Cardinals. Calvin Pryor, safety out of Louisville. Is the 13-14 too high? Is 14 too high for Pryor?
I don't think anything's too high for the Bears because
of the needs.
Need and what we've seen in the last couple of years. Bears. Well, I don't care what you're gonna tell me his draft grade is. I've seen him, I've watched him play, and I'm gonna take him when he's available.
I mean, look at last year. How many of you? Because you guys are Bear fans. When Long got drafted,
I hated it.
Yep. I was like, really? We're reaching for a guy.
I still say it's a reach though, and Emery was the smartest man in the room in this situation, like he likes to be. But I mean, in this case, it really, really worked out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could have predicted that other than Emery. Maybe it was just a giant question mark. So, chance. I trust in Emery. That's where I'm going to leave it.
I mean, this is the debate of with a pick like this, do you go best player available or do you fill your needs, whatever's there? I don't think you're going to be in a situation where it's going to be much of a reach, maybe like a 5-pick reach. So it's not
if
too big of a deal.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a huge gap. I don't know. It's really a toss-up, and I think preference-wise, we see Aaron Donald as the clear favorite from every analyst point of view, which in the end means absolutely nothing. So you can't count on anything. I'd like to see safeties, though. Safeties in corners, and that's all I want to see drafted.
While we're at pick 20, it makes no sense to me, just thinking about it, to see the Arizona Cardinals getting anything on that defense. That defense is fantastic. I mean, I know there's obviously some things that can be improved.
Let me put it this way, because McShay puts in his description for the Cardinals that if Teddy Bridgewater's there, he thinks that the Cardinals would consider taking him. Let's say Bridgewater's off the board. 20's on the clock. What position do you go for?
If we're just going purely off a position, I want offensive line or a running back. I know those
Yeah.
aren't sexy picks, especially
Well,
at pick
you-
20.
You're going to
You
reach
did
for a
have-
running back.
Yeah.
Did have Mendenhall retire this offseason.
So, like, I mean, you have these issues, and that the running back position was an issue that's kind of been there for the Arizona Cardinals for a while, even with Mendenhall. But obviously, it's going to be kind of a reach, and you don't see running backs go anymore. But man, can a running back help out?
Yeah, but I feel like this draft, second round, third round, we're going to see a few running backs taken. And the one that I'm excited to see, maybe you can say because of the late run that Auburn had in the national championship game, but I can't wait to see what Trey Mason can do at the NFL level.
It'll be interesting, his size and speed, how well it translates over to the big game. I'm not too confident, but I'd love to see it successful.
You don't think he's going to have success?
I don't think he's going to be a standout running back, no. Would I love it? Yeah, I love watching him play in college. He was one of the most exciting players, but I don't think it's going to work out for him.
Because, I mean, with running backs and the Cardinals, they lose Alphonso Smith, they lose Rashad Mendenhall. They did sign Jonathan Dwyer, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Not a great, like, oh, wow, he's a running. It's just signing a running back.
and it's one of those things where it really depends on what do you want to do with your offense. Do you want to rely so much more on Carson Palmer? And with a guy as old as Carson Palmer, that scares me, especially a guy who has no knees like Carson Palmer doesn't. So it's a tough thing to think that you're going to have to rely on Dwyer for like even a 40-60 split where he's doing 40% of the plays. That scares me for the health of Carson Palmer.
And, I mean, there are running backs. I mean, I mentioned Mason, but there's Carlos Hyde on ESPN. He's the best running back. And to me, I would say the best running back just by looking at his film. Me and Dave watched it last week after the podcast. Bishop Shanky out of Washington.
Yeah, he is impressive, thoroughly impressive. It seems like the only thing I wasn't able to see from the film was the non-sexy clips of how well can you block for your quarterback.
Well, and
that's a big thing.
Well, and I mean, looking at his profile for the ESPN for the draft, he's all ones and twos except for power and balance. That's where he's a 4, where he's at below average. He's not
going to punch
guy,
it into the end
but
zone.
he reminds me of Ray Rice, especially when he puts that arm down. He has the same tripod move.
Yeah, he's a pretty elusive back, and the fact that he can keep going, he just keeps his legs going. It doesn't matter if it's forwards, sideways. He's just
like
trying
Ray
to look
Rice.
for an opening, and he doesn't want to be held up. The thing that I'm still thinking is like, okay, late rounds, you're going to see, obviously, DeAnthony Thomas go. And then my favorite...
DeAnthony Thomas is going to be interesting because
Yeah.
in college, he played running back and wide receiver.
Exactly.
He played both at Oregon.
And I could see, again, I hate to say it, the Oregon ties here. I could see him
Chip
easily
Kelly.
going to Chip Kelly as, I know they went ahead and picked up Sproles this season as a backup for
But-
Shady, but
He could be a quicker,
Think about that,
a quicker,
yeah.
like
younger.
maybe smaller version of Shady.
Exactly.
I mean, you can go like
makes a
remember
lot of
the
sense.
4 tight end set. We can go 4 running back set, 5 running back set. Why the hell not? But I will say that on the 4.0 draft, 62 to the
Ooh.
New England Patriots. The first time a running back is taken, that's Carlos Hyde. All the way down to
That
62.
seems
I think
really
that's really
deep.
low.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
I understand it.
It's
but
because
just-
there's no sexy running backs this year. That's plain
well,
and
plus
simple.
it also falls into the syndrome of just why do we need running backs nowadays? We have quarterbacks. Like that's just what the NFL
I don't
is.
think it's so much about.
And that's why I
don't think it's about the quarterback so much. I feel like look at teams. You don't need that top end running back to be
that's what I'm
successful.
saying.
Okay.
It's all about the passing game right
Yeah.
now.
That's
Everybody's
because
cares about the quarterback.
It's because there's a higher percentage of completed passes. It's almost like guaranteed yards is what we're seeing with Peyton Manning in these short passes. Tom Brady with these short passes. It's almost like running the ball, except you're spreading them out
Plus,
wide,
it's
and you're giving
easy.
yourself the option. Of, hey, if there's something open deep, you got that bonus.
It's easy. Just throw it up there and then have your wide receiver put his hands up, fall to the ground, and you get a flag.
I mean, there is that too, but that's why I like DeAnthony Thomas because he has the speed, he has the hands. He's built to play in today's NFL as that quick back coming out of the backfield or lining up wide. The other guy reminds me of Marcus Lattimore is Seastrunk. This is a legit
I was just going to
stud,
bring him up.
legitimate stud he could be shelved for a year, get him healthy, and then see what he does next year. I think he's worth a flyer for a 5th rounder.
Sits in the 49ers.
Maybe 4th rounder.
49ers get another.
They should
guy
have a
to just
factory
sit
of
there.
running backs just chilling.
Why not?
Well,
Hey,
I
trade
mean,
bait.
when
You
you've
can get
got
5th round
Frank,
picks for him.
you've got Frank Gore coming out the door soon. I don't think he's got much in the
Frank
tank.
Gore's on the countdown. We'll see what Lattimore can do this year. I figure him and Kendall Hunter. I figure see more of Lattimore's because everybody wants to know what does he have. How well have his legs recovered from those injuries? So those were not little tweaks.
And I mean, one of the things that I'm looking at, kind of to get back to, Mark, you mentioned the 2nd round for McShay's mock draft, but the tail end of the 1st round, Cleveland's the only team that has 2 first-round picks. And McShay not only has them going Bortles in the early round, but he has them going Florida State wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin. So quarterback wideout. Boom. Offense first round.
I love it. I mean, your defense did well. It was one of the best parts out there of your team, although that offense has such explosive ability. I love having the wide receiver and quarterback combo. Honestly, I would probably rather take the wide receiver first. Use your first pick on a wide receiver, and then see if you do want to go with quarterback, because you don't have to. I mean, Hoyer is serviceable, probably. We still have an opportunity to see what he can do.
I think it's worth giving him a year to let him play. I don't think there's anybody. It's rough because, okay, Bortles could be fantastic, could be a waste of space. So I think you roll the dice. You improve everywhere you can and see what Hoyer's got in the tank this year. See what everybody can do. I think he could actually be legit. And Ricky, to your point earlier, actually the St. Louis Rams actually have a 2nd pick in the 1st round as well. They're number 2, and I believe they're number 13.
Yep, right before the Bears.
And then obviously, if you wait for that your 2nd pick in the 1st round, there's a chance you might get Teddy Bridgewater, or even Blake Bortles could fall too. It really just depends on what people are thinking and which coaches really think, I do like that quarterback or I don't like these quarterbacks, because it's really just a preference battle right now.
One of the top 3 quarterbacks is going to be taken by either the Browns or the Vikings, or
Without a
even
doubt.
Jacksonville. Maybe.
Without a doubt,
Maybe,
but there's a chance that one of the other 2 fall.
I
if not
don't
both.
see all 3 of them falling. I can see 2 of them falling.
Well, I mean, that's what, obviously one guy's
Yeah.
going to go, but I mean, you just have, if it's going to be Manziel, if it's going to be Blake Bortles, you could have Manziel or Bortles and Bridgewater fall.
Well, and I mean, I'm looking 2nd round.
I think one of my favorite 2nd round picks, right, is looking at the Minnesota Vikings. Going out and getting themselves another good corner. Yeah. I mean, this guy's legit. Played Florida State. He was one of the top defenders on that top-ranked defense. Not, I don't know, statistically top-ranked, but they were legitimate.
Solid.
They were a legitimate
Solid
defense. And they went up against a lot of high-scoring offenses and just absolutely killed them. Like, they wouldn't give anything up.
Well, and I mean, this kind of is the debate for the Vikings and what we brought up earlier. Do you go corner at number 8? And then 2nd round, maybe go if Garoppolo's still there, because McShay has him going right before the Vikings to Jacksonville. Or do you say, you know what, screw it, we're going to go at Manziel and then get our cornerback in the 2nd round?
The only risk you fall there is corner-wise. You could end up with somebody after that if there's a little bit of a drop-off in talent. But if you go the other way and you hold out and be like, yeah, we're going to get Garoppolo, and then you take your corner in the 1st, then you're screwed if Garoppolo gets taken. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
there's not a lot of other quarterbacks. I know he's not even ranked number. I don't know, depending on who you talk to.
I still think in that case, though, I mean, for the Vikings, I don't think Vikings are in contention for a guy like Garoppolo, because he's at the same level as Christian Ponder and Castle.
Yeah, but the only
he's
reason
gonna be inspired.
The only reason
he will start, I guarantee.
The only reason why I feel Garoppolo and the Vikings is a possibility is because I was watching his quarterback camp, and as soon as I heard him mention, oh, you got to have the mentality of first one in, last one out every single day. Well, Zimmer just ripped Manziel for not being like that, basically. And he's going to see this and go, that's the guy I want.
He's saying the right things.
That's the guy I want.
But I don't think it works for the team. I mean, you guys could take him, but I think if you draft him, he starts day one.
Let's say he goes to the Vikings. It's a very different situation than the guy that if I'm going like real life comparison, Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers. They're going to, like, if he's put in the same situation that Aaron Rodgers was in, he's going to have a much similar career to A-Rod.
And it's just a thing. I can agree with that. Kind of. I don't think he's going to be as successful
But the Vikings
as Aaron
don't
Rodgers.
have a guy like Brett Favre for him to sit behind.
There's very few spots where he can go do that.
But
And it's unfortunate for him.
But I don't know. I feel like even sitting behind a guy like either Castle or Ponder, it doesn't matter who the...
But he won't sit behind them.
Wait, but it's not a matter... Let's say he does, just for the sake of argument.
Sure, but he won't.
And I'm just saying, it doesn't matter who the starter is, because if we look back to Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre was like, I don't care what you learn. I'm not here to teach you.
Yeah, but you can sit there and find out a lot
No,
about
I know.
him. And especially watching that
I'm
tape.
saying
some pretty good quarterbacks can come out from behind Brett Favre.
I'm saying Garoppolo doesn't need Ponder and Castle to tutor him. He can just learn by coach at Norv Turner and by just watching the offense.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that are going to help him out, and I don't think that the Minnesota Vikings are a horrible place for him to go. I just think there's no way you guys were to draft a quarterback round 2 and he wouldn't start.
I know.
And it's just a shame for him because he is the guy who can learn so much and become so successful, but he's done almost too well for himself right now to where people are like, oh, okay, I want this guy. So now he's going to go to one of those teams that don't give him the best situation.
I know we seem to be locked in an NFC North kind of thing right now, so I'm just going to finish it off and go, let's go Lions, second round. They're thinking, let's try to get that number 2 wide receiver. I know they went out and picked up Golden Tate in the offseason. I'm not sold on Golden Tate. I don't think anybody is, to be honest with you. Other than the touchception, he really hasn't provided much of a spark for that offense in Seattle. So,
how many touchdowns did he get in the Super Bowl? Oh, wait, that's right. Wide receiver by committee.
Yeah. So right now they got them going with Devontae Adams out of Fresno State. I'm a fan of the pick, but I've watched the Lions go out, and their second wide receivers every time that something wrong. And it's just like, I'm like, all right, I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why do the Vikings want you to be their number 2 wide receiver?
That's a funny way to look at it. But yeah, I mean, every time, obviously Matthew Berry is always wrong on his taking the second, the wide receiver 2 for the Detroit Lions. But yeah, it's a weird situation because it should just make sense. You should be able to just plug somebody in there and they will be successful because of Megatron over there. Eventually, though, I mean, the Lions eventually have to get a good number 2 guy. It has to happen if they want success. So they have to draft a wide receiver, and unfortunately in the first round they're not going to get one of the top guys, and then there's that talent gap. But
they could get Mike Evans.
Yeah,
I don't think Watkins falls to 10, but Evans might.
I think
possibly.
I mean, obviously you'd obviously want Watkins over Evans.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just a different situation. I think the value for the picks, you're going to be better with a guy like
And
Clinton
to be
Diggs.
honest, if they really did want to, at 10, they could take either like Beckham, Lee, Benjamin. They could say,
Huge
screw
talent
it.
gap.
Screw it. We're
Huge
just gonna,
talent gap.
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry.
Could say
It's
screw
1,
it.
2,
They could say
5.
screw it. I'm just saying.
It would be dumb, but they could do it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm looking after Adams. And the wideouts that stick out to me, Jordan Matthews, Vanderbilt, Paul Richardson of Colorado, Allen Robinson, Penn State. After that, it's like crapshoot.
You get into a who's who of the conferences that you never heard of.
Yep.
So I think Devontae Adams, it makes a lot of sense. But again, I just had that hesitation. Like, what are you doing to us, Detroit? You're ruining this young guy's career already.
Well, and I mean, one of the wideouts that out of the guys after that are ranked below Adams, one of the guys that I feel like could be a later than the second round and could still be a good quality, like, let's see if he could be that number 2 wide receiver, Allen Robinson. Adams, 6 foot, 212. Robinson, 6'2", 220. He's a taller wide receiver. Look what the Bears have done with 2 big wide receivers.
You mean 4? They got 4 big ones.
It does help.
But I'm talking about the 2 main ones in Jeffrey and Harvard-bound Brandon Marshall.
Harvard.
Could have gone. Some people are saying.
Some people.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, for the Detroit Lions, they have to take a bullet and get a good second wide receiver at some point. It just has to happen.
Honestly, the 2 big guys that Okay, yeah, Detroit Lions in defense. They probably could go. They probably need a corner in that first,
You got to get
but you got to
Clinton
reach
Dix.
then.
Yeah.
So Clinton Dix at safety is like the next best thing. So if they go corner in the second round, then get a pair of no-name wide receivers and hope one of them pans out. I think that's honestly the best way that they could approach this draft. As far as talking about the big wide receivers, I honestly think that's what could happen with Tampa Bay. If they don't go quarterback, they're going to go out and get Mike Evans, and then they got Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson. That's not bad. It's not bad.
You're definitely getting some weapons. And if Lovie Smith is learning anything from if he watched the Chicago Bears, as painful as that might have been, just get big, tall wide receivers and let his quarterback not have the best accuracy and just loft it up there for him. Because that's what you can do. And that can make Mike Glennon and or McCown look really good.
McCown knows how to play with big receivers already, so
and Glennon had some accuracy issues, so it works out
so
very
true.
well.
That is so true.
Well, and I mean, one of the things, I don't know if there's anything after I say this, anything that you guys want to do to wrap up the Todd McShay 4.0, go right ahead. But in the second round, 48th overall, McShay says, Jimmy Ward, safety. And if you don't know NIU football, you're saying
There's
now,
something wrong with you.
who's Jimmy Ward? I kind of feel like a lot of people, if this happens, are going to say NIU, 48th overall.
NIU had a talented team. They've had a talented team for the past few years, and that defense was quality. Of course, we're not talking SEC
Boise
quality.
State 2.0.
But yeah, I mean, essentially they are the Boise State of college football
Except
right now.
they couldn't beat the big boys in the Orange Bowl.
I mean, there's a
in
talent.
the Orange Bowl.
There is a talent gap there. Just overall on the team, but they have some great standouts without a doubt. And actually, it's funny because before you mentioned this and you're talking about things we want to mention, I was going to make sure to mention Jimmy Ward because he's one of those guys that I really hope the Chicago Bears are just missing him because I don't think we're going to get Clinton Dix.
No, it's very
14.
unlikely.
And Jimmy Ward was the guy who I would have been fine with. If
and
we
Jimmy
gotten
Ward's,
him.
if this pans out, 3 picks
Just
before
miss
you
him.
guys.
And isn't that how it always works? Though?
It is.
Just miss him.
No, my definitely standout just from looking at this is Tom Savage being the pickup for the Houston Texans, first pick of the second round at quarterback from Pitt. This is like wait, who? He wasn't on the board a month ago. Where did this guy come from?
And this is one of those, hopefully he's not going to play right away, and he wouldn't. You got Fitzmagic out there working the magic.
And Case Keenum.
Yeah, Case Keenum's there too.
There's a lot of, especially ESPN analysts that I've seen that like Case Keenum.
I think there's a lot of things to like about Case Keenum. It's just, it's paper. There's a lot of things on paper that we can like about him, and just, he's got that spark about him. He's got something, he's got an it factor almost. And a lot of it helps that he's from the area. But it just didn't really translate to the field that well. And I don't think that's something you can hope for later on. But unfortunately, Houston Texans fans are sick of bad quarterbacks. And I don't think Fitzpatrick is a very good quarterback. So I think if they get a guy like Tom Savage instead of, Garoppolo or instead of
You think over Carr? Really?
No, I'm saying if they get him
Okay.
instead, I think that's a mistake. Because Savage, you're relying on him being there for 3 years.
And I'm
just
only
sitting and
saying
watching.
this just to throw it out there. Do you think maybe McShay's putting that there because Bill O'Brien, Penn State, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that kind of a connection?
I think it's a dumb connection.
No, I'm not saying it's a smart one. I'm
Yeah,
just
I mean,
throwing it out there.
if that's what he's doing, then I think he is making a bad choice there. But I don't know. It's tough. I think he thinks that Fitzpatrick's going to be there for a little while. He's going to play out that contract, and he can have someone just have learned for 3 years, step in. I don't see it happening.
Well, that's going to do it here for the onside kick. Make sure to comment down below. Tell us what you think of Todd McShay's 4.0 draft, what you think of our little analysis of it. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and all that fun stuff. And as always, have a good day, everybody.